I grant you permission to speak.
Shadows hide you. I am listening.
Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Hear Fred shout.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend!
Welcome to episode 429 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, January 11th, 2024 in the evening. Coming to you from Nomergon, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From Northrend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. As always, thank you for your reviews. If you would like to support the show, but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. So, I'm going to start our life in ladder, because unfortunately, my state legislature sucks. We are gerrymandered into oblivion, and there were a few things that happened. So a very anti-trans bill. It was like a bathroom ban for K through college, and a gender-affirming care ban for youth, and there was a sports ban for, I think, specifically trans girls and women. That passed in HB 68. The governor vetoed it, citing that he didn't feel government should get between parents and their doctors and kids making medical decisions, which was a commendable line to draw, since that is typically the line of conservatives, to have smaller government, but then proceeded to come up with these rules that would negatively impact my care. I think basically it was that anyone trying to receive gender-affirming care would have to have a team including a psychiatrist, an endocrinologist, and a bioethicist. And I think the best description of why this is a problem is basically like, say you have diabetes, and your state says you're only allowed to get care for that if you see these 5 specialists in your state. Well, not everyone's going to be able to afford or do the waitlisting to do that. So yes, the people who can get care are going to get great care. But a whole lot more people are just not going to get care at all. And so that's basically the problem with this system. I hadn't even heard of a bioethicist before these administrative rules. And it might end up impacting my ability to get hormones, which for me at this point, I've already had surgery and everything. It's been 10 years. So I basically need them as bone medication. And otherwise I'll get osteoporosis. So we'll see when they take effect, see if I can get stuff out of state, etc. Maybe they'll listen to public comments, who knows? And then on top of that, the legislature also overturned Governor DeWine's veto. So it's just all the things.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. This is just the full gamut. So while I love Cleveland, sometimes Ohio reminds me that it is horrifically gerrymandered, which is a huge bummer. But we're trying to get on the ballot an anti-gerrymandering issue. So if we can pass that, because our state's districts have been called illegal a few times. If we
wonder why.
If we can get them to de-gerrymander and redraw the districts, then we'll at least have a fighting chance, and I'll feel, better represented. Maybe we can undo some of the damage. But presently, this is one of the most restrictive when it comes to adult care of things that have been passed. It's like moving towards the realm of Florida, which of course is a state that presently there's like a travel advisory for LGBT folks that we should not go to Florida. So sorry to start on a downer, but that was my life stuff basically this week, was just following all of that.
Well, if you need help looking for a place in Massachusetts, then you know who to call.
Yeah, it's just a real bummer, just baffling why people need to involve themselves so much. But anyway,
it's cruel. It's cruel for no reason, is what it is, basically.
Right. And
Yeah.
for anyone, however they identify, like, it's baffling because, again, it's a person, especially with adults, it's an adult's decision about their own medical care with their own doctor.
Yeah, it was weird to sort of be temporarily happy about the veto and then to get administrative rules that impact me personally more and worse. So just a bit of a roller coaster emotionally, but I'm not moving yet. Anyway, we like living with our friends. We like living near so much family, and we're going to figure out a way to either I'll get stuff out of state. It's not that bad to go to Michigan or Pittsburgh or, Pennsylvania or whatever. We'll see how it goes. In terms of ladder stuff, though, I think I've been having a much better time than you two. I still probably am not playing a ton, right? I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy VII Remake in preparation for the part 2 that's coming out in, I believe, February. But I was listening to the Vicious Syndicate podcast. I don't read the report so much as listen to the podcast. And Zacho was talking about the Topior druid and how, Rey Estraza and Reno aren't great cards in the deck, but no one's taking them out, so he doesn't have data on like how it would look without those. And I played it a bit and I was like, well, I like having Reno because it's a useful tool to have access to once you've drawn through your deck. But Rey Estraza is garbage. So I cut Rey Estraza and I put in a solar eclipse, I believe. And that has been lovely because you can either solar the Blossom for, draw 4, gain 20 armor. You can solar the thing that gives you 2 nature spells. So you have a big influx of nature spells to use with the Topior triggers. And it's 1 fewer, more expensive card. So your Summer Flower Child is a little more consistent in hitting the things you want, because it's kind of sucks both to draw Rey Estraza from your draw 2 dragons thing, or to draw her from Summer Flower Child when she's not active forever. So,
yeah.
And a lot of times, even if she would be active, she's not the thing you want to be doing, certainly against Rogue, which is most of the field. So that deck has been going quite well for me. If you can get down Topior quickly, you have both the clears and the pressure, and then it just straight up runs the whole Fizzle plus Finley situation, right? Where you can go, okay, I have all the cards I want extra copies of. I'm going to Fizzle and then Finley my hand into my deck and pick up the snapshot. So I still have those cards, and the Reno stuff is the Reno's active. That's been pretty great for me. And I, right before the show, had a game where I beat a rogue by using a 7 mana Astalor after Renoing them. And the nice thing is when you have stuff like Planted Evidence, right? Just any cheap nature spells you can use to clear the board first to make sure all the damage goes face. It's just, it's a
huge.
really, really solid deck. And I've been enjoying it, even though I typically hate Druid. But here we are.
That's what this meta is doing to people. It's just turning them into
playing the things we hate.
Yeah, I was actually having there was a discussion in the Discord earlier this week about Rey Estraza and not singleton Druid, and the point I was making is that it's really good if you're getting it down early and you're getting a lot of value out of it, because it's almost like compound interest. The way that it works, the more dragons that you get out of it, you're able to just keep refilling. But if you're playing it late, first of all, it's a lot better when you're playing it when you have more mana than your opponent, because it's just an 8/8 that they have to deal with. And they don't have full mana to do it. When you're doing it when they have 10 mana, they can just deal with the body, and like the random dragons don't make as much of a difference at that point, unless you're in like a full control mirror where you're both gonna go to fatigue, and then you just need the extra value. But like, who's playing full control at this point? I'm not even playing full control at this point. So like, who the hell is playing full control at this point? It's basically like you're just trying to outlast a rogue's nonsense, and like one dragon a turn is not nearly enough to answer all of the nonsense that a rogue's going to give you.
When you're like already at fatigue. I mean, you do have Finley,
Yeah.
but
They
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
always get Alex Straza, though.
people with rare, yeah, that's true.
I basically found that as long as I can have a couple Renos to get rid of an opposing Rhea Straza, I don't actually need my own. So
Fair enough. Yeah, you don't get into that. If you're facing a actual Highlander druid and your Rhea is going to come online way later than theirs, you're better off just denying them their extra dragons.
Mhm.
Yeah, rather than trying to play your own. But yeah, there's I don't know whether it's power or just there's not that many decks that a lot of people are really interested in playing right now, but it's just gotten so narrow at higher MMRs at least.
I mean, it sucks when like the way you beat the best deck is basically kill them before they can get all their nonsense assembled, right? Like that's a lot of the decks that are there against. I mean, a lot of the decks that are good against Rogue are just extremely linear and basically just do their own thing and don't care what Rogue's doing. Excuse me. And make them deal with it, and that just gets boring after a while, right? Like that's kind of the problem. Is like the decks that are even the decks that are good according to the Vicious Syndicate report today are like 50-50 at best. So like, okay, well, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I personally don't necessarily mind if a deck is, you have to kill me, you can't just sit there and remove all my things. If that's because I have a different playstyle, that's not what bothers me,
Yeah.
but the fact that it's very hard to counter and it's very hard to predict. I think also there's a lot of people who like a style of play that it's the only representative of. So
Yeah.
then they all end up on Rogue. Like you don't
Yeah.
have so much mage and stuff like that.
I did have someone use, was it Valorok plus criminal lineup against me? I
Points
won
for
that game.
creativity.
I won that game. They set me to 1.
Oh.
And then they got renoed.
Oh my god. That is this whole meta in one game.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what I'm doing on ladder right now. Like I got to legend with Dragon Druid on Friday night. Friday night I didn't stream because I was still getting over being sick, and I think I probably pushed myself a little too hard recording last week, but I mean I was happy to do it, but then like I felt like if I tried to stream on top of that, like the next night I might like make it longer to recover. So I decided to take the night off from streaming and like played a little Baldur's Gate, played some ladder, just kind of casually got myself up to legend with the Dragon Druid. I mean 11x will do that, but I haven't really found anything that I wanted to play. Like I tried to do one heroic tavern brawl with Reno Priest. I went 3-3, losing to Reno Rainbow Mage into Black Rock and Roll Warrior for my last 2 losses, and they got everything. That Black Rock and Roll Warrior got everything right on time. It was Black Rock and Roll on 5, Lorthamar on 7, Finley right after that. Like it was just like it was like the demo reel, like like when at E3 when they used to show like the screenshots that were made up and not actually from the game. Like that was basically what this game was for Black Rock and Roll Warrior, like the perfect possible game.
That was their one win in the Heroic Tavern Brawl.
That was it. They were 0-2 and then they were 1-2 and that was it. Yeah, that was, I mean, and good for them. But I just kind of tried a bunch of stuff and nothing was working. Like I switched over to Odin Warrior later in the week because I figured, okay, like I am at the point where I am just playing stuff like I'm not going to play the aggro decks. Like Dragon Druid was losing to everything else. And like, I'm just going to play the stuff that is, I'm just going to worry about my own game and basically just kind of ignore what they're doing. And that'll kind of help me manage the tilt also. Until I ran into a rogue that was playing Tess and the sketchy whatever, the 2-drop that gives you a secret.
Yeah, that's definitely something making the rounds.
And they pulled Wandering Monster. And every time that they bounce Tess, which they do 5 times, 6 times, they put a Wandering Monster up that I had to send my armor attack through, even though I got Odin on 8. And and then I was done for the day. That was just like it's just adding insult to injury. And it's like, I don't know. Like I would like to think that there's going to be some balance changes when we get the patch with the mini set, but I'm not expecting it. And I'm just hoping that whatever happens with the mini set, and we'll talk about the mini set, but like that will be enough to dislodge this. But I don't know, because like it may just give it a couple more tools, or even not give it more tools, and it's just like good enough because like it'll just play with all the new cards without having to change the deck. but it's fine. I've just been I've been playing some. I'm like into Act 2 and Baldur's Gate 3, and I've been spending some time playing that. I picked Trails in the Skies SC back up again, so I'm making my way through that on the train. And I think I don't remember if I talked about this because I was sick and preoccupied with being sick, but I had a child wander into my house the week before last.
What?
I think you did say this.
I think I talked about it on Discord. I don't think I talked about it on the show. I was just like sitting here in my office, and like the way that my house is set up is like the door that's behind me is like right behind that is the front door. So I had the door open. I was just, playing. I think I was playing TFT. And then I all of a sudden I hear this voice behind me like, where's everybody else? And I turn around and there's like a 7-year-old girl in her winter coat just like standing behind me. And I look at her, she looks at me, and we're both very confused. And then I basically just got up and went over to the living room like, Maureen, there's a child in our house. I just didn't know what to do. And Maureen knows like, I'm a hermit, right? Like I don't talk to anybody. Maureen knows everybody everywhere. So like, so she's like, okay, like where, so she goes into like, into teacher mode. And it's like, okay, well, or mom/teacher, like, okay, honey, what's your name? What's your address? Like, I was so shocked. I had no idea. Like I should have known these things as like a functional adult, but had like no idea of like even what to consider to do. Like, because so like, and like the thing is that like my children come in from school and like we leave the door unlocked for them because like we try to give them keys and they just lose them or whatever. So we just leave the door unlocked for them to come home. But they forget to lock it behind them. So the front door was just open for this kid to wander in. So finally she's like, she gets out of her like where she was trying to go. And she's like, okay, well, I know like, or what's your address? Okay, I know where that is. Let's get our coats on and we'll go take a walk. So turns out apparently someone like 3 doors down from us does music classes in their house. And the parents dropped them off in front of the wrong house.
Whoops.
And they just walked in because the door was open. Expecting to see a music class. And she sees me playing my stupid video game on the computer. And like what, where is everybody? So thankfully we got that sorted out, and it was a very confusing 20 minutes that, had I not been sick last week, would have been like probably the highlight of my week. But I still, even now, it's just like every so often I'll just go up to Maury like, hey, where's everybody else?
Oh man. I would have like hit my head on the ceiling with how
I basically did. I my brain blue screened. I had no idea what to do. I was just like, Maury, can you please come here and deal with this? I have no idea what to do about this.
Oh man.
I would have just been thinking about the time that my brother got lost when he was 5, and like on Halloween, trick-or-treating
God.
with Ever. And we had just moved to a new neighborhood, so we didn't know where our house was. And what the people should have done is like stayed put with him. But they wandered around to try to find his house.
Oh no.
And then we're looking, yeah.
Ooh.
So he actually hated Halloween like from then on, and I would actually share he refused to go trick-or-treating, and I would share my haul with him because I'm a good twin sister.
Yeah. See, he and I would get along great because I hated trick-or-treating also, but that's because my parents got convinced by the Jewish day school that it was like a pagan holiday and didn't want to let me out, but their compromise was to let me dress up in a costume and hand out the candy to the other kids, which was 10 times worse than just sitting in the basement and not going out. So I just, to that, to this day, I'm happy when Halloween is over. I just do not like the holiday.
In terms of, life, I've just been, it was the first week back at the school where I teach. So just kind of wrenching my brain back into what's going on in all of the classes. And all of my students are in different places. So trying to get back on that wavelength. I had one 7-win heroic brawl run, and then I decided to leave it there. I almost went less. There was one game that I should by rights have lost, but that seemed like they disconnected or like miscounted that they had lethal and didn't send it the right place or something, but they just kind of stopped on their last turn. And I am not so principled that I'm not going to take advantage of that on a heroic brawl run. So then I was able to go and then win a bunch more games. When you do lose a bit at the beginning of a heroic brawl, you run into some interesting decks. Like people main decking Synthesize and that Freeze Elemental and Mage was my second game because I lost my first one. My first game was like a completely reasonable game that I happened to lose, and then my second and third games were very weird opponents. Not weird, but my second and third games were like the kind of thing that I played 2 years ago opponents.
Like Black Rock and Roll Warrior, perhaps?
Like Black Rock and Roll Warrior, perhaps. There was like a very strange Death Knight that had plagues, but also was rainbow, I think, and I didn't actually know what was happening. I just killed them. There's at a certain point you stop asking questions and you just kill them.
Yeah, I did see a Ma and Pa in my run too. Yeah, I definitely I beat them, but I definitely did see a Ma and Pa at one point in my Tavern Brawl run after I lost the first game.
Yes. So otherwise, I just haven't been. I think between school starting, finally really getting into Act 3 in Baldur's Gate and sneaking around and talking to everyone and doing the 5,000 side quests they give you, even though supposedly like the apocalypse is coming in 3 days, but it's a game, so you're fine. There are some time-gated quests, but it's also, you're fine. And I've been like reading. I read a sort of lesser known Ursula K. Le Guin book that was pretty good. And then my now fiance had given me a book called Fangirl, which I was like, this set in exactly the year that I was a freshman in college, about a freshman in college who is into what is clearly an analog for Harry Potter fan fiction. And I'm like, you know me too well. It's a very fun book, and it also is reminding me a little too strongly of how much I hated being 18. It was like, it was just not a good year in my life.
Wait, is that by Rainbow Rowell?
It is.
Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah, I think I remember Maureen reading that too at some point. It sounds familiar.
She has a fantastic series on magic that the names of the books are all songs. Carry On is the first one, I believe. This is the Simon Snow series or trilogy,
which is
I guess.
the fictional series that the characters are obsessed with in Fangirl, which is very fun.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, people liked Fangirl so much that she was like, I'm just going to write those books, right? And they're great. It's, you can tell that she was inspired by Harry Potter fan fiction kind of things, but it's personally a much cooler alternative in terms of the way the magic system works and everything. It's basically like language has power, and so all the spells are phrases that people commonly use. And when in book 2, they're in the US. And so the phrases are different because people use different phrases in American English compared to UK English. So yeah, very, very fun series.
That is fun. I will have to check that out because I'm reading this book and I'm enjoying it, but my favorite parts are the quotes from the books or the quotes from the main character's fan fiction. So I definitely, that was part of my high school and college experience. We'll just put it that way. So yeah, and when I am playing Hearthstone, I'm mostly still playing Naga Priest. I was doing pretty well against rogues, and the rogues have gotten better, and I have not. Either that, or I'm just distracted by school, because I am no longer positive against rogues. I don't know what my exact win rate is, but it's definitely not. It's definitely below 50 at this point. So, but I am excited about the mini set, and while we probably, just from historical trends, don't usually get balance changes in content patches, so but there is going to be a bunch of new cards, so hopefully that will shake things up some, and we'll see. We will see.
So, all right, well then I guess we may as well talk about that because that was the big news of the week.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
So that is really the news. Most of the news that we're going to talk about this week, and then we did get one bit of surprise esports news that we'll talk about too, and then we'll be spending most of the rest of the episode just kind of talking about the cards that we saw. But we did get an announcement today, as we're recording this, of the Delve Into Deepholm mini set, which is coming out on Thursday, not Tuesday. Mark your calendars, because normally the mini sets come out on Tuesdays. This one is coming out on Thursday, so it's coming out on Thursday, January 18th. I had to remember what the month was. And we'll have a number of new cards. We are getting dual class cards in this set. Again, we got those for Festival of Legends. We did not get those for Titans, but we are going back to getting dual class cards. And the dual class pairs are the same as in Festival of Legends. So all of the classes that were paired up for that are paired up for this, which means Rogue and Priest are paired up again, which, as you can imagine, I am super excited about. Not really. But it is what it is. So it's coming out on January 18th. 38 new cards, 4 legendary cards, 1 epic, 17 rare, 16 commons. They can either be opened in Showdown in the Badlands packs or purchased as a 72 card set. The normal mini set will be $14.99 or 2,000 gold. The all golden mini set will be $69.99 or 10,000 gold, and will come with a diamond legendary as well. So we are getting it. It is showing it's revolving around Therazane, who's the Earth Mother. As you probably heard several characters mentioning the Earth Mother. She is the Earth Mother. We'll get into the mechanics when we talk into Decksplanations, but they've apparently dug down into her area, and she's not happy about it. And also, we are seeing the return of Bran, which this is where Elise and Reno meet Bran. One would presume there is a Finley coming, but we haven't seen it yet, so maybe not.
We do have a Finley in Standard right now, so it's very possible that they're just not going to include Finley. Also, the classes I would imagine Finley being in are either Shaman or he already was in Paladin. So
yeah, I mean, Brandon and Elise are both in. So they're in the opposite of the other class that so each one of them is a dual class in duels. Right. And so Elise was priest and druid, and she was originally a druid portrait, and now she was a druid in Uldum, and now she's a priest in Badlands. Bran was Hunter Warrior in Duels. He was Hunter in Old Doom. He is Warrior in Badlands. Finley was Paladin Shaman.
Right.
So if Finley's going to be in the set, he would be a Shaman card. Probably.
But not a Highlander card. And the reason why I say that is we did see a tweet that there's going to be only 2 additional Highlander payoffs in this mini set, and both are revealed in today's cards that we're going to go over. So that would mean if there's a Finley in Shaman, he's not Highlander.
My guess would be if there's a Finley and Shaman, he's actually Excavate, because one thing that's going on in this set is that the Outlaws and the townsfolk mining corporation people are having to work together because of the great threat from the elementals. And so we have a Highlander payoff in Warrior, and so potentially maybe an Excavate in Shaman, but that is pure speculation.
That would be cool.
It hasn't been revealed yet, and we're only seeing the cards that were revealed today, but also it's worth pointing out it might be a little bit weird to find a Murloc in the middle of the desert, just saying. You know,
maybe.
He's Finley. He goes on expeditions.
Yeah.
He's a gentleman Murloc, you know.
So we also have new Excavate treasures. We'll talk about those when we get into Decksplanations as well. But it looks like the theming is very cool. The cards seem pretty interesting. They're definitely going in some different directions. We'll talk about those a lot, but it's get your gold ready. I mean, we knew to expect this. This is the pattern, right? You get the Heroic Tavern Brawl. As soon as the Heroic Tavern Brawl ends, like the minute the Heroic Tavern Brawl closed, the teaser for the new mini set dropped on Twitter. So, this is to be expected, but it's still fun. So we'll see that on Thursday, and we'll talk about the cards that we've seen so far. The only other real news other than the esports news is we've been hearing a little bit more about the legend increase in Asia that we were talking about last week, and it seems like it might be related to increased bot activity in Asia. So there are, I should actually update this number because you pulled this number this morning and it's probably more now. So I'm just going to check what that number is right now. But so there's right now in Americas, there's about 7,000 legends. This is again on the 11th of the month. In Europe, there's a little bit over 7,000 legends. In Asia Pacific, there are 58,000. And if you look at the stats on HS Replay, there is a high prevalence of Unholy Death Knight, which is apparently the bot deck of choice, because it is very simple to pilot. It's also apparently very cheap. So it seems like that's really what's happening. And there's so many bots that they're playing against each other in volumes that they're able to get to legend. So,
or even if they don't, they're saturating the field such that other people can play
other
against
people are
them
able to just
and
beat them. Yeah.
My expectation would be most of the people who are at legend are people, but that there's a lot of bots in high diamond. Also, because of the win streak multiplier, even if you have a below 50% win rate, just occasionally you're going to get an extra star that helps make up for that. And they're playing they can play 24/7 because they're a bot. So just the volume of games, they'll eventually climb. Although it's a lot harder to do that Diamond 5 through Diamond 1. So I think you do see less at legend.
Have the extra star. Yeah.
But, and this is something that of course the team is, I'm sure, very well aware of. They have more data than we do. And they've been talking about that they have new things that they're hoping will be less whack-a-mole to try to identify the accounts. But, we don't have Classic anymore. We don't have the ability to just farm XP in Mercenaries at all to the same degree as before. So I don't know, what exactly is driving. It seems like there's more bots than normal, but in Standard especially.
I think what happened, I mean, if you look at it, it started in November, which is when they made the change to the Mercenaries XP when Badlands launched. So it's very likely, and again, this is all speculation, but it's very likely that these bots were all there just farming XP and mercenaries minding their own business, and then the XP dropped, and the people who owned the bots decided to take them out and move them to standard so they could earn more XP. And that's just kind of, this is the fight against botting, right? Like, you've got people who are very motivated to try to capitalize on this, and they're gonna just be changing up their tactics when one door closes, they open a window, or they Jimmy open a window, I guess. But I mean, I guess if you want to look at a silver lining, Hearthstone is still a game that is worth botting, right? I guess. Like people are incentivized to build and update the bots because the accounts are still valuable. So from that, it's a sucky situation, but it's, it says something about the health of the game, I guess. So
there's no way this would ever happen, but there's just like this kind of like vindictive or like stick it to him part of me that's just like, man, I wish that to make an account you had to verify with some form of identification that you only get one of, right? That you're like, you could use whatever you've got. You could use a birth certificate, you could use a government issued ID of some other kind, but like something that it's like, yeah, you only have one of these. Of course, they would never do that because people could only make one account, and there are, legitimate reasons for people to have an additional account. But it would just be a big like, yeah, there's no way around this. Like,
yeah,
and it could be a private verification, right? It's not like people would need to see that information or anything, but just to be like, yeah, you can't replicate this.
Yeah, ask Elon Musk how that's going. That's I mean, the problem is that a lot of people just aren't going to want to give their ID to Blizzard, and
right.
It doesn't matter how noble of a company they are. Like, that's just
And it's something that would have had to have been implemented from the beginning, right? Yeah. Like, you could never retroactively do that kind of thing. Yeah, right.
Plus, it's also not like just the US or, so many different countries, I would imagine, that would make it logistically very difficult.
Yeah.
But yes, it is frustrating how just whack-a-mole it is. They can ban the account and then they just make a bunch more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They grow like Hydra's heads, as it were.
Some kind of true IP verification. I don't know.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all the things you're saying would work, but also probably kill the game in the process, which also, I guess, solves the botting problem in a different way, I suppose. But but anyway, so that's that. But we also do have a morsel of tournament news. So let's go over and talk about that.
Yeah, so this is just a tiny little thing, but it says, from Hearthstone Esports, happy 2024. We hope you're digging the Delve Into Deepholm reveals. To everyone prospecting, we wanted to give you the scoop. Competitive points start this year with February leaderboards. Full details are coming soon after the mini set goes live. So, announcement of the announcement, and hopefully we can get excited about what we hear next year. We'll say I got earlier in the week because Gabby, I think, posted
it was Gabby.
A retweet of when they announced the 2023 system, right? But you just see the link, the Hearthstone Esports, and it was like, oh my god, they just announced this tons of money system. Yeah. And I clicked it and I was like,
I mean, no. It could have been worse. It could have been Rick Astley. So, it's...
That would have been better, actually.
That actually would have been better, yeah.
I've come to appreciate that song. Really quite a deep voice.
Yeah. I mean, we did learn two things, right? I mean, one, we got official confirmation from the Hearthstone Esports account that something's going to count for something, right? So that's good, because right now, up to then, we only really had that tweet from Alec Elliott, which is, he's still a reputable source, but getting something from Hearthstone Esports is good. And also, like, a lot of the pro players have been saying, like, hey, if January is going to count, we kind of need to know, because it's mid-January and we need to be grinding if that's the case. And I'm glad for the sanity of all the pro players that they don't have to spend this month grinding through parades of Thief Rogues. I'm happy for them for that, like, preserve their strength, but yeah, so I mean, those are two important things of information. I'm glad they at least got the announcement out that January will not count, so you don't need to be grinding ladder right now. That's just important for the players who are going to be participating to know, how to approach the month, right? They know that they can conserve their energy and then go at it hard next month.
And we have something. The
Yes.
worst case scenario was avoided.
Yes.
There is a system for which ladder will matter. Phase 1 complete.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
It's better than the alternative, which is not having a system. So,
But no point pontificating about possibilities for Hearthstone esports in 2024. We've got cards to talk about, one of which I'm very, very excited about.
Me too. It's probably not the same one.
It's not the
Definitely
same
not the
card.
same one, but also I don't know which one you mean.
I mean, there's one that my persona is excited about. We'll say it that much. But let's go talk about that before we get into a fight.
All right. Well, we have, as we mentioned, a bunch of reveals for Delve Into Deepholm. We're going to talk about the cards that were revealed today, January the 11th. There are also cards being revealed tomorrow, Monday, and Tuesday. But what we got for today was the neutrals, 3 new Excavate Treasures, Warrior and Demon Hunter, and Rogue and a couple of Rogue Priest. Then there's going to be more Priest tomorrow. But I think we can... What order do we want to do this in?
Well, I've got Deep Miner Brand on the screen, so...
All right. Well, and we have someone very excited to talk about this card. So, Eloise, do you want to tell us about this card?
Its stats are so bad. But, so, Deep Miner Brand, a 6 mana 2/4, but may I remind you that the last brand we had was a 7 mana 2/4. It happened to also summon a King Crush, but we're not going to talk about that. So this says, Battle Cry, if your deck has no duplicates, your Battle Cries trigger twice for the rest of the game. I'm so happy. I love Bran so much. It's very much a, like, find a window to play this, control card. Even worse than Svalna and Odin. It's really just like, if you can find an opening where you're not going to die and you can play Deep Miner Bran, oh my goodness, the possibilities are, you're not going to have hand space the rest of the game. Like, and not even from that many things, right? There's a new Highlander payoff, which I find questionable, but certainly will fill up your hand that we'll talk about later. And then Flint, right? We play Flint now, certainly in Highlander. And so if you get one where you're like, oh, that's the dragon, then you can go in on like the other line and just have crazy Flint turn. There's also, just Astalor, right? You go, yeah. Astalor 2 gives you 2 5s that each give you 2 8s, and the 8s do 28 damage. It's just... There's so much possibility when you don't have to squeeze in the 3 mana to play Bran. It's just always there.
And you are never running out of things with this.
No, you're never running out of things.
And you could still play Odin. Like, Odin's not going to stack.
Sure. This is why. This is
definitely why. Like, this is absolutely why. But, like, there are a number of Battlecry minions that give you armor, particularly Tidal Revenant, which, if you've forgotten, Tidal Revenant is an 8 mana 5/8 elemental, and you can get more elementals in the set now. But with the mini set. But he is an 8 mana 5/8 elemental that says Battle Cry, deal 5 damage, gain 8 armor. That's 26 damage if you have played Odin.
Yep.
For one. That's a decent amount of damage. Even like if you really want to get stupid, like Trench Stalker can go face twice if it lives.
It sure can.
You know? I mean, Boom Boss Thogrun can blow up 6 cards. Though you want to make sure you've played Reno before that because you're still shuffling those into your deck, which are going to turn off any other Highlander payoffs. But
Blast Tortoise is killing everything because it deals damage to all enemy minions equal to its attack twice.
Olger's going to get swole.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many of those you do, but the fact that, hey, you can not feel bad about running only, one copy of the Excavate things because you get to Excavate twice on the battle cries of the Kobold and the mech thing that I always forget, the drill. So that's probably part of why the other 2 Excavates for Warrior are spells, because otherwise it would maybe be a little too ridiculous. But yeah, there's so many possibilities when you're just like, hey, there's a possibility to always double the things. And so battle cries that, maybe you're border. I mean, I don't even know if you have to run borderline battle cries. You can just run the good ones and they're even better. So
I mean, you can just run, you can even run things like if you may not have to dig this deep, but like Alex Straza is just 16 face. Like you could consider running Denathrius again.
I don't know about Denathrius.
Denathrius is probably a bridge too far, but certainly like Alex Straza is actually like a reasonable consideration. Like I don't know if it makes the cut, but that's a lot of damage and or a lot of healing, right?
Right.
Reno Menagerie Warrior. People have been talking about this, at least in the server. And the Burger Club has pointed out you only need 4 tribes for a full 1 amalgam band.
It's true.
If you get a double battle cry for it. And a lot of the menagerie things and taunt things are like battle cry, buff everything in your hand. They're mostly battle cry related. So maybe. I always kind of hoped that one would land.
And like, I don't know how much value you're realistically going to need at a certain point because, Astalor probably just kills them in the end. But if you're ever in a situation where you're like, hey, I could use a little extra value to compete against my Rhea Straza opponent, you run Fizzle, and it puts an extra copy of a few things. Oh, and hey, you get 2 photographs. So...
Okay, hear me out. Okay, I'm going back to my Trench Stalker dream. Lorthamar Theron.
No. we don't
But
need
it'd be
that.
32 attack. And it's definitely living to attack the second time.
That's true.
Just an OTK. Like, I mean, the only downside with this, if you're trying to do like Black Rock and Roll things or Lorthamar Theron, is once you've played Bran, this is a more like the MMR you save could be your own. Don't play Finley after you play Bran because it's just going to shuffle. It's just going to put stuff in your hand and then put it back in your deck. And it's going to lose all the enchantments. So don't do that. And I mean, the one that shuffles your hand back in and draws that many cards is a little better, but not by much.
Although Black Rock and Roll would be a good way to make Deep Bran actually have stats.
It would be a real minion. He'd be a real boy at that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a tempo loss to plan, but I think that's appropriate for the power that he has.
Yeah,
and it's definitely a good thing that it. I think because this is a marquee legendary, but it's a class legendary, they can really go ham on the power in a way that they absolutely could not for a neutral.
Right.
Like, imagine you put this in Rogue. Just like,
no, thank you.
No. I would not like to imagine that. I would like to sleep tonight. Thank you very much.
The couple of times it's gonna happen anyway, it's gonna be enough, right?
Oh god, they get this off of Wishing Well. Like, people are gonna play Wishing Well just to be able to have that one game where they get it.
Yeah.
Right.
I am just looking forward to the one game where I'm playing Reno Priest and I get offered this from Amanthul.
Please no. please no.
It still exists in the game for everyone, but there was.
Yeah.
I do want to give props to Dawn in the Discord, not Dragon Rider Dawn, but Dawn predicted yesterday, quote, "If your deck has no duplicates, your battle cries cast twice this turn. Reddit in shambles." So close to what really.
Yeah, not this turn. Forever.
Warrior only, though. Very important note. Warrior only asterisk shenanigans, which is
yes
a thing because this is Hearthstone. But this is, I think, one of the most like deck building interesting cards that we've gotten, and the kind of thing that just really even makes me want to cook with what are the possibilities here.
I'm going to be playing Warrior until rotation. Like, it's just, that's the way it's going to be. Because I love Bran so much. I'm getting to run, I'm sure, some of these things will probably get cut eventually, but like Fizzle, Zola, those are probably stretched too far. But just even the Excavate reward, you get 4 8-drops.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, and like Reno Warrior is a thing that people have been playing now, right?
Yeah.
Like it's an actual deck already, even with just Reno as a payoff. So having like a reason to do it, like it's already a reasonable option. So I don't see this being. This is definitely going to be played. I mean, it's the marquee legendary. Like this is. I don't want to call this the Kazakhstan of the set because I don't think it's that oppressive. But I'm glad that if they're going to do an effect like this, that it's got a deck building cost, such as it is. I know that being a singleton deck is not that much of a deck building cost, but still, you can't put 2 Tidal Revenants and Odin in your deck, right? Like you have to find the second one.
And this is something that I think you especially don't want to do, the thing where you run a duplicate deck and then, I'll play this after I draw my whole deck. No. First of all, you're playing Warrior, not Druid. And second of all, you want this down on 6.
Yeah.
If you can play it. So it has that deck building restriction pretty well built into it.
But on the bright side, if you want to stick your duplicates in ETC, you'll get 2 of them when you play ETC after Bran. So
this is true. You get extra stuff. This is the kind of card I think that probably the correct move is not to do like 4/5 of the crazy things that you think of because you just Astalor them, but we're going to do them anyway because they're fun. And then there'll be a rotation and there won't be Astalor anymore.
It's true. Yeah. What a world that will be.
Oh man, and no Renathal. Oh, it's going to be glorious.
Well, we'll have to see what we get, right?
On the other side of the excitement scale, I was excited to have this character. I'm not terribly excited about this card. Let's talk about Therazane.
So Therazane is a 7-mana, 7/5 elemental legendary. Taunt, Death Rattle, double the stats of all elementals in your hand and deck. Therazane, of course, is the Earth Mother, as Wickagood was mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
So we are, just briefly go over, there's a bunch of elementals in this mini set. There'll probably be more class elementals that we haven't seen yet, but the 3 neutrals are all also elemental. The 3 non-legendary neutrals, I should say. And she herself is an elemental as well. But yeah, I mean, we were talking about how she's, yes, a taunt Death Rattle, but a Death Rattle, not a battle cry, and curves straight into Reno. So you play this on 7, and then you're just very sad.
They don't always have Reno.
Yeah, but they keep it. Like, it's just...
Listen, I don't see the problem. You play it on 8 with the light it burns, and you're fine. I don't see what the problem is.
Why are you playing elementals in Priest?
I don't know. Why wouldn't you? Maybe you just do. I don't know.
I think what makes me kind of sad about this is elementals needed help, but I don't think this is it. So unless there is some kind of crazy specific elemental that's worth doubling, I'm just not seeing it. When we were kind of chatting amongst ourselves before the show, the best thing we came up with was like from the other side, because Alakir in Shaman. So if you could Therazane a bunch of times, you could have a very large Alakir. But she's just like, she's not that appealing. Like I don't think a Lorthamar Thrawn type effect was what a tribal deck needed. You know, they release a bunch of elemental stuff, and just like after maybe a week of testing, it's just completely fallen off. I don't think this is going to change that. Even with the new neutrals that we've seen, only one of them really cares about having its stats doubled, and the other two are just sort of kind of utility. I'm just not seeing it. And like, maybe if it was a battle cry, maybe.
I think it might also depend on other things that we can do with death rattles, or like in Mage, which is one place where they seem to be pushing elementals to like reverberations her. I can see the idea of, in an elemental deck, if it goes late, your plan B is to double the stats so that your cheap things still do something, or you do something like an Alakir from the other side criminal lineup, although probably not that, because the way that curves is not great. But something, we should probably mention just what those 3 neutral elementals are. One is Shale Spider, 2 mana, 3/2 elemental battle cry. If you played an elemental last turn, draw a card. There is 3 mana Iridescent Gyreworm, which is a 4/3 death rattle. Give each of your minions a random bonus effect. So those are the same keywords that we normally have. And Stone Drake, 6 mana, 2/8 elemental dragon, Divine Shield, Taunt, Lifesteal, and can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. So that's the one where if you double it, it makes a difference.
And that's the one that I'm actually looking at for Reno Priest, because like as a 5/5 coming out of Elise, that's not bad, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're just playing it, it's okay. But like, that's a real minion that you're summoning out of Elise. That's not that is going to take some work to deal with, unless they have their own Reno. But other than that, like, that's coming out of Elise. That's 10 healing, right? They have to go through it at least twice. And even just playing it base, like 8 health is a lot of health that you have to chew through. And even if you're probably going to heal a fair amount off of it. So like, that feels like it's got potential. It's also, by the way, a dragon, so you can play that in Dragon Druid or in the Reno Druid if you have any other dragon synergies there, or you'll just get it from Rheastraza or Time Lost Proto Drake or Amalgam in the Deep, whatever. So, and that's a card that you'll take a fair amount of the time from those cards as well, or you'll just offer them randomly.
I mean, it's very annoying, I think, for an aggressive deck to try to get through a Divine Shield, Taunt, Lifesteal with a big back end to back it up. So I can see that being powerful. I mean, one other thing that Therazane could double that is insane in stats is Walking Mountain. And then if that thing lives, which if you're not dead at 9 mana and they mostly have damage-based removal, again, Reno's a bit of a problem for you here, but then it has Mega Wind Fury, like it just a million damage and a million healing when on the turn you play it.
Yeah, like it's not impossible, and there are definitely times where stats help a fully minion-based deck, particularly the Elemental Shaman, where your goal is to play an elemental every single turn because you don't want the Scar to have the chain broken, so Scar does a ton of damage. I think the main way I see this is because elementals do a lot of discovering, and so there's a possibility of like getting additionals, either to continue pumping stats or because some of them are not going to have the effect happen because they get silenced or renode or whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is, like, especially in Mage, like, they're all Battlecry minions. Like, almost all of the elementals are Battlecry minions, which means that they're understated, right? I mean, I guess you could double the stats, so then you could play Messadoon and then draw 2 copies that are half cost that are the same stats. Like, that's a lot of work to do that, but it's something you could do to get 2 4-mana 8/8 rags. Like, I guess that's congrats, you did it. But yeah, like the rest of them are all like the one that isn't a Battlecry or Death Rattle, or the 2 that aren't a Battlecry or Death Rattle are Arcane Artificer, which is a 1/3, and Vexillus, which is you don't care about the stats because if you're playing it, your opponent better be dead, right? So
right.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it doesn't work that well necessarily with the draw an elemental and split. Like, if you draw an elemental, split, and hit Therazane herself,
right? That would be great.
She's not. You can't build it so that like she's the only thing you hit, because then she does nothing because you don't have other elementals.
Yeah, the problem with Messadoon is basically you want to run very specific elementals, not an elemental deck. You can put it in an elemental deck, but then you're gonna more often than not hit more mediocre things. But maybe if you've doubled the stats of everything, then whatever you hit, you basically just get 2 of them, right, for cheaper. Yeah, we'll see. But certainly you couldn't like try and target Therazane with Messadoon, because then you just don't have elementals for Therazane to buff. What I wonder about, though, is this is the maybe one upside to this being a Death Rattle. An alternative thing for Rogue, which of course they're never going to do this, but if this is your Death Rattle in some kind of elemental Rogue, Shattered Shambler is an elemental. And of course you could still do the 4/4 that gives you a copy of a Death Rattle minion in your deck when it dies, and it costs 4 less. So you could get out Therazane much earlier as a 4/4 copy, potentially start, doubling stats of elementals in your deck, run, this neutral package that looked pretty decent. It wouldn't be a terrible thing to Shatter Shambler into... I guess you wouldn't do this if you're trying to target Therazane with the Kobold, but Iridescent Gyroworm would be a cool thing to, like, just proc its Death Rattle immediately to give all your minions a random
so hard
bonus
right
effect.
now.
But this is the kind of stuff that I theory craft around. So yeah, could be an interesting. Maybe it wouldn't be full elementals. Maybe it would be a little bit menagerie, which been at various points tinkering with a menagerie rogue, right? Getting the one amalgam band, right? Later on.
That with double stats is not bad. Yeah.
That would be great. So, yeah. Rogues are never going to do that over what they're currently doing, but it's something I'm going to try.
That means you can play it because other people won't be doing it.
Exactly.
Rogue's other elemental is Halkias. This could be Halkias' time to shine.
Oh, no.
No.
It's never Halkias.
I mean, looking at the mage elementals, they are mostly battle cries. That means, though, that like pretty much anything being hit by Messadoon is like, you're probably happy to have the battle cry twice. And if they were hit by, it's not a ton of stats, but if they were hit by Therazane, then they're no longer like late game nothings. They actually have real stats and they're cheap battle cries. Maybe. I will theory craft something, and I have 11x, so even though I have barely played, I'll hit legend eventually, right? So
we also haven't seen the mage cards. There may be some mage cards that's there's some reason to want to do this and do elemental mage. I would not be surprised if they give us a reason to want to be playing elementals in mage, because right now there really isn't. I mean, the elementals are fine in mage, but they're not. You're not building a deck around them. But maybe they'll give us a reason to. Like, there's stuff like Tainted Remnant. Like Tainted Remnant feels like it could be a real card. That's if you've forgotten, which you probably have, because I have never actually seen this played. it's a 5 mana 7/4 elemental with Battle Cry. If you played an elemental last turn, deal 7 damage, randomly split between all enemies. Like, that feels like it could be a real card if it had a deck to go in, which it just doesn't right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, certainly the Blast Mage is a real card.
And I guess like Overflow Searcher is like the 4 mana 3/2 Battle Cry. Summon a copy of this for every turn in a row you've played an elemental. So if you're doubling the stats on that,
Bunch of 6/4s.
a bunch of 6/4s. I mean, that's Druid's whole life right now is just making a bunch of big idiots,
But
right?
those
So
have taunt.
I mean, you know, like, yeah, but you have the Death Rattle. You have the Gyrosphere, Gyromancer, Gyro, whatever.
Gyroworm.
Gyroworm, yeah, whatever he is. So you have that, you kill that off, and then you give them all taunt or something else, something good.
I'll tell you what I think is the most likely situation we're going to see Therazane is actually off of the last legendary we have to talk about today, which is the neutral Highlander payoff, Marut Stonebinder. 7 mana, 5/6. Battle Cry. If your deck has no duplicates, discover an elemental to summon, add the others to your hand. So if you summon Therazane, then she will double the stats of the ones that go to your hand.
Yeah.
Even if you're not an elemental deck, right? You're just a Highlander deck. Maybe you have some other elementals, but at the very least, you buff the ones that are in hand. You get a decent body alongside this 5/6. I'm not sure how I feel about this as like a final neutral Highlander payoff. I feel like there's a lot of decks that maybe just won't run it. We'll have to see how powerful that Discover is, like what your odds are. Because there's a lot of small elementals that you don't want to hit.
Yeah. But I mean, Warrior's the one that I would see wanting to run this because of the doubling. Right. And like the elementals in Warrior are the ones you want to hit. Right. Because Title Revenant. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many Thori Balors you want, because like that starts taking up room on the board eventually, unless you're trying to bait your opponent into renoing you. But like, but Title Revenant certainly is something you want. Like Igneous Lava Gorger is a lot of armor.
Yeah.
Steam Guardian is just draw 2. And then you can just get a Slagmaw down, and then, you're gonna, if you're double excavating, right, that's gonna wake it up 4 turns sooner just from one excavate.
I mean, you only have to hit one thing with decent stats in the Discover. Like, the question is, what are the chances that all 3 have terrible stats? Because you do want the cheap things to be in your hand and the big thing to be on the board, generally, anyway.
Right.
So, but the question is, how often do you just whiff and you're summoning a 5/6? I suppose, like, the stats are okay, maybe, even with a mid-cost elemental. But yeah, we'll have to see how often does it whiff. And as a Highlander payoff, if you're only getting like a mid-cost elemental on the board, then you're probably like, that wasn't great.
And you still get to choose, right? So it's still a Discover. Right. You still get to choose. So like you get to choose what you summon. One important thing before you start panicking, you cannot get Neptulon from this, because you can't. The Colossals are excluded from any effect that randomly summons onto the board, even if you're discovering. So because this is a summon effect, Neptulon is excluded from the pool. So you don't have to worry about random Neptulons coming out of this, which would be a high roll and a half.
And yet a thing that you would see, you would just see it. Like,
you can get Rag. That's a thing you can get.
You can get Rag and you can get Thunderbringer. Those are the 2 8-drop. Well, 2 of the 3 8-drops. Azura Giant is whatever. It's an 8/8, but Thunderbringer is, depending on what you want to get out, isn't bad either.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thunderbringer, if they are already running Neptulon, will summon the Neptulon out of nowhere.
That it will. That it will, yes.
Probably not a thing you do just for that situation, but yeah.
Probably not often enough, but, possible. Yeah, I'm just looking at like how many classes have like enough. I mean, I suppose like if you're doing Reno Shaman, like not an elemental shaman, but just a Reno Shaman, Shaman has a decent number of high cost elementals with some board impact if you summon them. So it might be worth running in Reno Shaman if we're doing like Reno Shaman's a reasonable deck, it's just not being played.
Yeah. I mean, Walking Mountain's great.
Yeah, you could get a Walking Mountain.
Not typically run in the deck, but could.
No, but get as a summon out of this card.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah. My point is you don't play this if you're playing an actual elemental shaman, you probably do not want to be Highlander. But if you're just playing Highlander Shaman, then Stonebinder might make sense because you have a lot more good hits.
There are a lot more smaller hits as well, too, though, right?
There's only one. So there's 1 cost, 1 2 cost, 3 cost, but most of the shaman elementals are at least 4 or more.
Yeah, like Grass Elemental's fine. Let's a 4 mana 3/3 Rush Divine Shield Taunt Wind Fury. Like that's fine to summon, and like Menacing Nimbus Shockhopper are pretty good to get in your hand and play them for the battle cry, right? So you just need to get like offered one that has like a reasonable body. Like even if you're just summoning a fire elemental, that's not the worst thing in the world. Like it's not what you want, but like it's still a 6/5, right? It's not terrible, and like you could get like, you know, Champion of Storms and then have a nature spell that you could play to get a 4/2. It's not gonna have rush because you're not forging it, but whatever. You know, like Minecraft, I almost said Minecraft Cruiser. Minecart Cruiser is I mean that's just a 4/5 rush, and it's never gonna overload you if you're summoning it, right? So it's that's a pretty good one also. Like there's some decent hits in there that kind of you know, compensate for the fact that some of them are smaller.
It's definitely, I think we were having a discussion before the show about like making seems to be stepping away from making just really generically powerful neutral legendaries. Now Reno certainly was not stepping away from that. But this is not a card that's going to go, neither this nor Therazane is going in tons of decks.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
good.
It's not Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, which was the last neutral, you know, big Highlander payoff that we had.
Or Kazakhstan, which is one of the big like neutral legendaries from a mini set, right? Like we're still reeling from I just joined the show when Kazakhstan got printed. So, you know, that was 2 years ago. But,
and you two thought it was not going to be good.
I know. And how wrong I was.
You can hold that over them for the rest of time.
I would argue it was powerful. Whether it was good or not is a discussion that we could have a very different debate about.
Sure. Yeah. I think it's just as well. Certainly, while we still have Astalor, you know, they already had to nerf Denathrius. We do have some other powerful neutral legendaries. Okani isn't seen a bunch, and that's a different kind of power level. But we've definitely had sort of a year or a couple of years of like, oh, there are some, you know, seriously powerful neutrals that a lot of people end up running. So, while I, you know, maybe would have liked an Elemental Lord to be a little more impactful, and I could totally end up being wrong. I kind of feel like, yeah, we'll see Therazane a lot coming out of Marut Stonebinder, and how much Marut Stonebinder will we see? I don't know. I cannot evaluate this thing's power level without, you know, playing it and doing a bunch of the discoveries and seeing how frequently it's like, okay, at least one thing is decent, you know?
Yeah, that's hard to figure out very well in advance. We should probably also talk about these excavate treasures. We got one of each, the, you know, 1 cost, 2 cost, and 3 cost. We got one more excavate treasure of each of those. So the 1 cost one is Heart Blossom, which is give a friendly minion +2/+2, deal 2 damage to a random enemy minion. So you're both developing your board and potentially removing something on the opponent's side.
Removing your opponent's board while developing your own.
Yeah.
As the meme goes.
And it fits the style that the other excavate cards do in a way. The 2 mana 1, Deepholm Geode, is a 1/2 elemental. At the end of your turn, deal 2 damage to all enemies. So that's every turn it lives.
Thing is terrifying. Oh my
It's a lot.
god. That is nuts.
Hey, how'd you like a 2-mana Consecrate? And oh, by the way, if it lives, you get to do it again. Like, that seems
Mhm.
okay. I would play that card.
They have to have something survive the turn that it comes out so that they can kill it, or, some sort of from hand removal. But, like, yeah, that is terrifying. As someone who's been playing a lot of Naga Priest, I'm like, I have no way to deal with this.
When collapse is often devastating. This doesn't remove as much stuff as that, but just the fact that it stays there and is like, yeah, you got to deal with this, or it's just gonna keep going.
And it goes face.
Can you imagine you're a Treant Druid, your opponent excavates this? It's curtains, right? Like you
have natural causes. You just have to hold that back, I guess.
Yeah, you have natural causes, and you have the either deal 2 or summon 2 saplings. But like, what if your turn 1 was to make the saplings? Like, it's just
you spent you. I hope you like hero powering, because that's what you're doing for the next 2 turns until you get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, as a Treant Druid, you can't like not develop because you're scared of this thing, right? Like your deck is developed. You have to develop as a Treant Druid, and so this is. Yeah, I mean, you can try to play around removal, make it more awkward to remove, have something to play after, but you can't not develop because you're scared of this thing. Like, you should still play your saplings on 1.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that like the odds of getting any particular excavate treasure are now lower because we're adding these into the pool, right? So it's like even less likely. Like we haven't talked about World Pillar Fragment, but we will because the question is why are we getting this and the same effect on a legendary? World Pillar Fragments of the 3-mana excavate which is a spell, discover an elemental to summon, add the others to your hand. So it's the same as the legendary. And why are we doing that? Well, because one of them you're only going to get once every so often. Like, there's only one excavate card that says discover on it in Death Knight. Otherwise, they're always random. And so you're not going to get that all the time. Whereas this is an effect, if you really want it, you can put it on a legendary, put it in your deck and get it.
Right. Yeah, it's gonna be powerful when people get it. It's gonna be pretty intense. We'll see. I'm a little scared of World Pillar Fragment, perhaps more than of Marut.
Even though you have to excavate to get it, it's still only 3 mana for itself, and it is. So there was a Twitter thread that's linked in the show notes from Leo Robles, who is one of the designers, talking about a lot of the cards that have been revealed so far. And he said, yes, it is intended that Marut and the World Pillar Fragment have the same effect because the output is so varied. I thought it would be fun if the new Singleton and Excavate decks from this mini set got to experience one similar moment to add some cohesion to the mini set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but all 3 of these Excavate treasures, now Excavate treasures, of course, are powerful. That's the whole point of them, but they seem really good.
Yeah. I mean, they seem like excavate treasures, so.
Yeah.
And that's part of what has made, what makes Excavate Rogue work is that pretty much no matter what Excavate treasures it gets, they are likely to have, be low enough cost and high enough power that they make up for the fact that you had to generate them, and they allow you to do what you need to do. So more consistently, I mean, now a little bit less consistently, but you're not unhappy to hit these instead of something else most of the time, I don't think.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we polish off Warrior here with some perhaps less exciting cards?
All right, so we have 2 Warrior Demon Hunter dual class cards. So one is, you have one. Okay, so the first one is a location, which is Crimson Expanse. It is 4 mana, 2 durability, common. Choose a damaged minion, summon a copy of it that goes dormant for 1 turn. What people were talking about in the Hearthstone Hangout channel in the Discord was Big Demon Hunter. You put this on an Illidari Inquisitor.
Oh, no. Don't do that.
After you rush it into something to damage it.
Oh.
Yeah. You could also use the other card, Burning Heart, as an activator 1 mana, deal 2 damage to a minion. If it survives, give your hero +3 attack this turn. Kind of like quick and dirty removal or an activator for needing damaged minions.
Or 1 mana deal 5 if it's not enough to kill it, because you can still run your face into the minion also.
And
Yeah.
that goes really well with Illidari Inquisitor because it gives you that attack you need this turn to go face.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that. But when it comes to this location, the main benefit I see as a potentially for Warrior, as opposed to just running the now 3 mana Faceless, which actually in Rage Warrior, a lot of them I think just cut, but is that you can set this up beforehand. For the downside of the thing goes dormant when you get the copy. So it's not as good for like setting up a double hand buff turn with Anima Extractor, but you can set up so, hey, I've got this big charge minion I made, this Crazed Wretch, and next turn there's going to be another one. So that could in certain situations be a benefit because it's like, hey, you have to deal with this, and then there's also going to be more pressure next turn. So in cases where like a control deck is removing stuff, it's not just, okay, they had the one big clear. It's like has to happen over multiple turns.
Or they Reno.
That's where it really goes downhill, right? Just Reno's ability to poof not just the location, but the dormant minion makes this kind of thing much less appealing if you don't get it used before you get to that turn 8 point, which if you're trying to do Illidari Inquisitor, you're going to need some other things to like discount or whatever to make that happen sooner than Reno. So I'm kind of low on this location. I feel like there's potential there because of the kind of what I refer to as like banked tempo, right? You play the location and then, you can have that benefit later on. The problem is that the dormant like banks it even more. So I just don't know how effective that's going to be. And unlike using Faceless to make a copy of something with charge to do a bunch of damage in one turn, you give your opponent the ability to potentially heal out of range if they're able to, say, just like light it burns the one of them, and then they know another one's coming, so like they know what range to get out of it.
Or they put up a taunt or whatever.
Exactly, right? Maybe you'll be able to deal with those things, but it's just not quite as good as, getting your copy now. I think that dormant is much more of a downside than an upside.
Yeah. I guess the other thing that's there is that it's not stealing buffs like Faceless does from Anima Extractor, right? Because it's location and not a minion. That's the one downside of Faceless, is that sometimes it just eats all the buffs from Anima Extractor, but also, man, is this going to feel bad when you top deck it? Holy cow. Like, when you're just in top deck mode and this is what you draw, you're going to be very, very sad. And like, this is not really what, like, this is very slow for what Enraged Warrior typically wants to do, because it is at heart a tempo deck, and it's bank tempo, but it's also really anti-tempo unless you're getting a really big payoff out of it.
This is definitely the slowest, greediest fire in Rage if we're doing it in an Enrage, I think.
Yeah.
And you can, like Faceless, again, the dormant makes this much less of a tempo play. You can copy your opponent's minion, is worth noting. So it does have that flexibility.
Which Titans exist. So like maybe you do that. You damage an enemy minion, make a copy that goes dormant, and then you finish it off with like a blast charge or something. But I don't know that you find space for this in
that kind of warrior.
I mean, it could be an Arena Warrior. I mean, we're gonna have a rotation, right? So there might be more room in a couple months.
We might also, I feel like Burning Heart, if we do play any sort of Fire and Rage, Burning Heart is a candidate for inclusion, because it's a way to damage your minion. It's cheap. It gives you that extra +3 attack. That's a lot of damage. You can, if you're sending that at your own minion, you can also send 3 attack at your opponent. Or you can remove it if you need to, and it's a fire spell, so it activates all of your fire spell synergies. It's cheap, which is really helpful for a fire spell.
Or for Naga DH, right? Like, I mean, that's not that's just a cheap spell for Naga DH to be able to get more attack, which Naga DH wants to do on that turn, and then it's a cheap spell that then can get you, keep your chain going. So it's not 0; it costs 1, but 1 is still less than 0. And like, if you can even just hit your sharpshooter with it if you need to.
Yeah, or a lot of times you like want to get rid of their board so that things start going face. This could be a way of like weakening something so that a sharpshooter shot finishes it off and you still get the +3 attack. In terms of for Enraged Warrior, Burning Heart as well, great with Crispy Skipper, right? You deal 2 damage to a thing. If it has 3 health, the what is it actually called? Sun something does that last point of damage to finish off the minion, and then you get your 3 attack. Like, that's really nice.
Yeah, no, that there's a lot of ways that I think it works. If this, I really enjoyed Fire and Rage, so if there's a reason to come back to it, I certainly will give it a shot. And just, I think lots of warrior decks just in general might want this card. It's just solid card potentially, I think. There's lots of, even outside of Enraged decks, cards that care about being damaged in warrior, so it seems powerful for 1 mana. We also got some additional Demon Hunter cards. So we have Fell Fissure is a 4-mana Fell spell. Deal 2 damage to all minions. At the start of your next turn, deal 2 more damage to all minions. And since this is a spell, like, nothing has to survive to deal that 2 more damage to all minions. It does not go face. It is, Leo points out, this is a really cool art piece. It is a very cool art piece. So it's kind of a sigil, but that also happens now.
Right.
It's what Leo points out.
Yeah, it's a little weird as removals go. Like, certainly against something tokeny, it could be quite powerful because you're both dealing with the current board and then also making it hard for them to develop. But 2 damage isn't a lot, and it's all minions, so you're not going to be setting up your spell damage, right? Your Silver Moon Arcanist with this. I don't know where this would have a home, but it's potentially a decent clear. I think it kind of depends on. It's very meta dependent.
Yeah, I mean, it's 4 damage for 4 mana, but not all at once. And if you need the second half of it for whatever's on the board right now, then that's still hitting you in the face, which you would prefer not to happen. So, but I mean, you're gonna get this off of the finale discover a Fell spell card enough, and then you'll probably find spots for it there, right? So like, there's cases in which you may not put it in a deck, but you still find use for it.
Yeah, it seems expensive, or only getting 2 damage now and then still having to deal with their board. I mean, I suppose like against a Treant Druid, it means they can't play, like their board gets cleared and then they can't play anything. And they're just
unless
kind of
they've played Soul of the Forest and then they just don't care.
That's true. Or they play Soul of the Forest now because they know they need to. But that's also, a pretty particular situation. Like, most decks are not going to care as much about having this against them. And they can play around knowing that you've got another clear coming.
It's also all minions, not enemy minions. Right? So like it's also like you're not developing behind this, right? Because you're also blowing up. I mean, it's 4 mana, you're probably not developing behind this anyway a lot of the time. But like, you would want to play a clear and then develop. You can't develop behind, or you can't develop small minions behind this because they're gonna die too. Or at least you're making it easier for your opponent to clear the board that you're setting up. It's weird.
So yeah, I don't know where this fits, if this ever fits anywhere. We then have a couple of Demon Hunter Rogue dual class cards. So one of them is a 2 mana 1/2 weapon, quick pick. After your hero attacks, draw a card. So it is a dagger, but it also draws a card both times.
Sure.
I I basically see this as a like rotation, just solid card. Once rogues aren't doing concoctions for card draw, assuming that we excavate rogue eventually, because they already cut concoctions. But quick pick is a pretty good, like, hey, I was going to dagger up on 2 anyway. I'll just draw a card twice and work on building up that hand size for, your big miracle pop-off turn. Less enthusiastic for Demon Hunter, where there's lots of other good card draw and your hero power costs 1. So, I guess there's an argument that, like, you can pay the 2 for hero powering twice, and also you get to hero power on top of this, so it deals 2 damage. So, like, there's some differences, but I don't know that Demon Hunter is going to feel it's necessary to run this. Maybe in a Highlander, maybe.
I suppose and one thing that Contiguity is saying in the chat is there are like some Demon Hunter cards that care about having drawn a bunch of cards this turn, and this preloads the mana for at least one of those draws.
Yeah, I guess.
Gives you a free draw for a later turn. I don't know if that's good enough, but it is a possible use. That's kind of really the only thing that I can think of in Demon Hunter.
We did run the death route, like draw a death rattle card.
Just to draw a card.
Just to draw a card. So yeah.
To draw a tradable minion that you just
draw a tradable minion and send it back in the deck. So like that, like stranger things have happened, but like, I mean, and the counterpoint to, well, you could just do this instead of hero powering and rogue. Like, you wouldn't put Wicked Dagger in your deck, right? You're still having to put this card in your deck to do that. Now,
it draws you 2 though.
It thins your deck, essentially.
It does.
It gets you closer to the cards you want.
It's 2 mana draw 2 eventually. So
which is, I mean, you draw 1 now, 1 next turn. Like, that's not incredible, but as long as you're in setup phase, I think it's still pretty solid. It's no swindle, but it's, it's decent, I think. The next one is just weird. I don't...
Even Leo says, I'm going to be honest, I have no idea how I got to this design, but here we are. So it is a 1 mana 1/1 elemental, Shadestone Skulker, Rush, Battle Cry, take your weapon and gain its stats, Death Rattle, give it back.
What? Like, nothing has very high durability most of the time. So I guess the way I see it being used the most often is you've got a high power weapon of some kind. You play this, it snags the weapon temporarily, rushes into something, immediately dies because low durability, and you get the weapon back. Kind of cool, right? If you've got a Glaive Tar, maybe this goes in an Outcast DH, you've got a Glaive Tar equipped, you throw this out, it hits something, rushes in for 5 damage, summons a 1/1 because you've got Hawkstrider, and then gives you the Glaive Tar back. Like, that could be pretty cool, and, rush minions are always great because of Halvaria, but it's very weird.
Halvaria is a point, though. Yeah.
Hear me out. You've just played a gigantic Draka weapon, and then your opponent plays a taunt. Right? So this would let you put the weapon in the Skulker, deal with the taunt, and then get the weapon back to go face. That's the only use case I can think of that would make this make sense, because it has to be a really high attack weapon in order to do that. I mean, we could get those kinds of things coming later, but like, it's got to be like a decent sized weapon to care. I mean,
it only costs 1. What it costs is a deck slot, which is not trivial, but it only costs 1.
This is the light it burns, right? That's basically what this is. So like, this needs to kill something
and die,
or at least like, and then die to give you back the weapon, right? So like, your weapon needs to be big enough to kill whatever you care about, and it's very weird.
Can you imagine you have a decent sized weapon and this value trades and then gets silenced? You don't get your weapon back. Like, it has to die.
Yeah.
It does. But yeah, I mean, the Halveria, if we somehow, especially because Outcast Demon Hunter has Glaive Tar, and Glaive Tar is a perfectly good hit with this, then maybe if we get that deck back, although that's not a deck that was ever super popular, but it was a fun deck.
I like Outcast DH.
It's
Yeah,
I mean that was
really
the deck
fun.
that was the deck of Masters Tour Spring. So
Yep.
you know.
Yep. That was the deck of choice for my partner in crime, Grumpy Monk. What he moved on to after Naga Priest and Undead Priest. But he was better at Outcast Demon Hunter than I was. So that broke our streak of being twinned.
Should we get to the contentious ones?
Yeah, let's do Fool's Gold first. Get it out of the way. So Fool's Gold is a 1-mana rogue card. Get a random golden pirate and elemental from other classes.
Cool.
Sure.
I think it's mostly there for it's got cool flavor. It's definitely got cool flavor, and the art is fun.
Yeah, they're random, right? So no discover. Yes.
They're class cards though.
They are class cards, so that ups the possibility in terms of good hits. But yeah, I mean, I think maybe decent arena card. It's kind of one of those, right? But I think in terms of your play stuff from other class cards, this is not generally making the cut. Now, it might get found off of other things and discovered that way, but yeah.
I guess if you're really trying to get Velorok activated, there are a lot of cheap elementals and a lot of cheap pirates.
It's likely to get you cheap things, but there's other ways to activate Velorok.
Yeah, it's in the spell pool for Prison and Yogg. That's...
Yet more ways to burn cards because you filled up your hand.
Yeah.
All right. Then we have Hidden Gem. It is a 2-mana, 2/2 elemental, stealth. At the end of your turn, restore 2 health to all friendly characters.
I like this one.
So, we talked about Overheal Priest and the problems with it a couple weeks ago. And what we said was that there isn't a persistent effect, right? There's not an easy way to heal up minions in perpetuity. Like there is in Rage Warrior, where it's a lot easier to damage minions because you could just, trade or whatever, right? And you've got the location, you've got, ways to do that. This is doing that. Now, 2 health is not a lot when you're in the overheal context specifically, right? Because some of the minions do damage to themselves that's more than 2. If you do something like trade into a 2-attack minion and then this heals it up, you don't get the overheal, right? Because it has to actually overheal, not just heal itself, which is something I found out the hard way when I was playing Automaton Priest again. Because I tried to heal my Crimson Clergy up and healed it to full and didn't overheal it and didn't draw a card, and then I was sad and then felt stupid. So I mean, this is basically you've done the healing and then this is going to do another overheal, right? A lot of the time, because you kind of have to have everything at full health, but it's a stealth minion, which means your opponent has to find a way to deal with it. If they can't, this is going to be proccing your overheal effects, and anything that can proc your overheal effects without spending a card to do it has to help. I don't know if it's going to be enough for an overheal priest to work, because nothing up to now has made it work, but this is something that it needs in order to be viable. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
This is also something you can have, again, it could be cleared by AoE. Well, yeah. But this is something that you can have ahead of time, and then you play the finale overheal thing that's really hard to overheal and finale in the same turn. But if you already have this up, or the location, I guess, then you can do that. So it's also just about getting a critical mass of overheal effects, I think. And this just helps you get that critical mass. And most of the overheal effects also are things that you don't mind happening at the end of the turn. like drawing a card or dealing damage to the opposing board, or that obviously would be better if you could get through a taunt with it, but like you probably don't care that much. Most of them are fine at the end of the turn as an extra thing.
And it means that sometimes, you can have situations where, okay, maybe you wouldn't have had enough healing to trigger overheal because it your stuff was damaged, but then you still have the hidden gem to, at the end of the turn, activate stuff. Like, you fan club during the main part of your turn, get things back up to full health, and then the hidden gem does the overhealing. Gonna say the quiet part out loud here, just in case people didn't realize. Since this has stealth, it's not just stealth for one turn. You can just leave it there. You can never attack with hidden gem, and it will, at the end of your turn, restore 2 health to all friendly characters until the opponent finds a way of dealing with a stealthed minion. Obviously, against a control deck, that's going to be less relevant because they'll be using AoE, but it's pretty significant for matchups against, anything else minion-based. And I really love the perspective curve of, like, clergy into this, right? This is now something that you can develop onto and still get that card. And then you can curve it into the 3-drop that summons a minion based on Heartthrob, get a 2-drop, maybe you get another one, that'd be funny. So I like the things that this adds for an overheal priest.
And it heals your face, which is
due to
nice.
it being a rogue card. Yeah, we've never had healing for rogue besides lifesteal weapons.
Yeah. I like this being a rogue card because this is effectively something where rogue will never play, which is my favorite kind of rogue card.
They might pick it up off of the tier 1 Azurite Excavate, right?
Sure.
If they need healing or whatever. I like when dual class cards offer things that a class doesn't normally get to do. And even though it's a small amount of healing, rogue usually has to sort of reach outside to find healing, and to have, something in its class is nice. But okay.
Yeah. And priest doesn't usually get stealth either, so,
Right, exactly. We have saved the worst for last. Not in terms of quality. Well, maybe in terms of quality.
So when this card was revealed, I just quote tweeted it and just posted the gif of Homer Simpson shrinking back into the shrubs.
And I had taken a picture because I was like, I bet this is going to come true, of a prediction of what was going to happen in the show before the cards came out. And I said, this is going to happen. And the prediction was that Wicked Good is going to explain why a Control Priest card is not as scary as everyone is immediately mad about it being.
So anyway, the card is Shadow Word Steel, which does exactly what it sounds like it does. It is a 5-mana spell, shadow spell. Return an enemy minion to your hand. So you pick it up off the board and you put it in your hand, and then you emote. And I'll save that. Well, I guess I shouldn't. I would save this for my coin concedes, but Ben Hearthstone, who is a lovely human being, photoshopped me and Sidisi into the art of this card, of me being the one stealing and Sidisi's head being in the jar, which was delightful. So here's the thing, right? We've had Drown for a year and a half. Drown has seen very, very little play. Drown, in case you've forgotten, and I wouldn't blame you because I'm the only one playing it, is a 4-mana shadow spell that that shuffles a minion, or it doesn't shuffle, it puts a minion from play onto the bottom of your deck. So this is clearly better. Putting it in your hand is better than putting it into your deck, especially if you are playing a Reno deck, because I have screwed myself with Drown, or put myself into the position where I really ought to drown this, but if I do, I'm going to screw myself later, but I really need to drown this. But Drown is like, we've also had Fight Over Me, right? Fight Over Me is clearly worse because Fight Over Me requires you to have 2 minions that can kill each other, and you want both of them. So either one is not good. This is clearly better than those because it removes it and puts it in your hand. It's still a 5 mana single target removal, right? That may get better at rotation when we lose things like the light it burns, when we lose cannibalize. Like, those are 2 premium single target removals. Like, 4 mana for cannibalize is worth it because you're healing. This is not triggering a death rattle and giving you the opportunity to play it, maybe, but also, like, I discover a lot of legendaries off at Amenthul that sit in my hand for the rest of the game. Just because, like, you don't always have time to play those cards, and it's more just a matter of just getting it off the board, and you have the opportunity to play it later. It's going the biggest benefit of this is just going to be being able to emote and then tilt your opponent afterwards. That is a clear benefit for this card. I will fully easily admit that, but yeah.
This is what you play in the mirror to get your opponent's Raw Den off the board.
Yeah. But you can drown that now too, right? Like, you already run drown in that deck. So it's like, I mean, unless you're talking about Automaton Priest, which, no, you're not running this either.
So here's the thing. Priest currently has Love Everlasting, which means you can be doing this for 3 mana. And Rogue, of course, has Prep, so they can also do it for 3 mana. I do think its most likely scenario of being run is in a Highlander situation, which there might end up being a Rogue Highlander deck now that there's 2 neutral payoffs. But I'm mostly concerned about this being generated.
It comes out of Svalna.
Right.
Yeah.
Which,
but Svalna's also rotating, by the way. So, like, we only have Svalna for another month and a half.
It's true. But
Svalna isn't even played in Highlander Priest, right? Svalna's not played, really, because, I mean, that could change after some things get nerfed, but, like,
it's in the ETC.
Yeah. It's not even in the ETC anymore. It's gotten cut from the ETC.
Well, I don't know. I definitely, maybe your list, that doesn't mean everyone's.
No, I'm pretty sure that it's not. There are better things to keep in the ETC right now. But, I mean, I could see if we end up going back to playing against control decks, you could see it. But it's not even consistently in ETC.
I feel like you need the value to, like, keep up with rogues sometimes, or like, Rhea Straza or something. Also, in terms of just a control priest, right? Like, not even a Highlander, but a control priest running Svalna, you still get access to this, right? So I will warrant that there's going to be a lot of situations where it's not worth it. 5 mana is big ask. There's only certain situations where you're going to get it reduced, but there are those situations. And for me, what is most troublesome about this is, like, you may not see this a lot, but when you do, it is going to be the most infuriating card. Like,
absolutely.
I have kind of, levels of kind of getting frustrated about these kinds of effects. Identity theft is, I think, the currently, like, most powerful, most infuriating card that copies my stuff. I've always hated stuff that makes me feel punished for playing good cards, and then all my opponent had to do was play something that got them. I used to get upset with Thought Steal back in the day, which that was in some ways worse because it was random. So it's not even like, oh, my opponent discovered the right thing. It's like, oh no, they happened to get one of my best cards and their deck is terrible, but they got this.
Or perhaps when you took the Amanthul out of my deck completely randomly.
But the joke was you ran Thoughtsteal because whatever your opponent was playing was better than what you had access to as a priest. So
that's no longer true. I don't think that's true anymore. But just in a world where they've been making things like Titans, right? And where you're going to have situations where you Reno and the opponent can only play one thing, and their best case scenario is to play a big thing, and then you take it.
Yeah, that sort of Yogg type effect is probably, although again, you probably, if it's a big thing, are not playing it in the same turn that you steal it.
No, but even so, like, there's going to be situations where your opponent plays their Titan out, right? And you're like, cool. That's the only thing you played. I'm going to take your Titan. And the next turn, I'll use your Titan to remove whatever your next play was, because a lot of Titans remove things. So it's just going to be one of those things that will be very, very frustrating, because there is just a visceral bad feeling when your opponent uses your own cards to beat you.
I agree with that, which is why it's probably good that I think it's not going to see. And maybe I'll be wrong and it'll be the scourge of the meta. I don't think it's that great. And, if we think about like Power Chord Synchronize, you can often get like a Power Chord Synchronize and a removal for less than this.
Yeah.
With Power Chord Synchronize, it's already, usually you're targeting your own stuff, and this you can't do that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the thing is, like, here's the difference between this and Cannibalize. Like, Cannibalize is a 4-mana single target removal that sees a lot of play, and then Drown doesn't. And I think, and the reason this was also wouldn't is because, like, when you're paying that much for single target removal, like, you need to do something about the rest of the board too, right? Like, it's usually, unless your opponent just played one really big thing, which is sometimes the case, but not always. But like, you very often get in a situation where you can remove one thing, but then there's the rest of it, and you don't have an answer because you're spending 4 to 5 mana on this. And with Cannibalize, well, okay, I can deal with the fact that I didn't clear the rest of the board because I just healed for a bunch, right? Whereas this is dealing with that, and then, oh crap, there's the rest of this angry stuff that's about to hit me in the face. So this is also kind of like, this is how you give Control Priest cards without giving Control Priest cards, right? Because it already has better ways to do this. So it's like, if your goal is to be the stereotypical priest who emotes at every turn, right? And your only goal in life is to make your opponent hate you and hate life, which is what most people think most priest players are. And I'm not denying that those priest players exist. They absolutely do, right? Those people will play this card, and then you can just hit them in the face with the rest of your stuff, right? And then they have to find time to play that card. Like, it has to be. It also has to be something that they want to play, right? Like, a lot of times you end up having to burn that removal on something that you have no interest in playing because it doesn't do anything for you, but you have to use that removal on it because you're going to die, right? So like, it's not always good. It's not always a good thing to have it in your hand. Sometimes you just need the hand space. With that's less room to be able to identity theft. I mean, that would be a tragedy.
All right. Well, we should probably wrap ourselves up. On the one hand, we record and then they've only done 1 day of reveals, but on the other hand, we knew that would be plenty of stuff.
Yeah.
See, we're learning. And
next week, we're going to have all the cards. So we'll be talking about potentially, playing a couple hours with them. So
yeah. But we know ourselves well enough that we said, okay, there's only 15 cards. This is for sure a 2-hour episode. We don't need to do anything else because we know it's going to be. So we planned for it, and good on us for actually not being time blind for once in our lives. So,
yeah. One final nitpick about Shadow Word Steel that a lot of people have mentioned. Yeah. The language, terrible.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's return an enemy minion to your hand. It
was
wasn't
never there to start
before.
With. Yeah.
You're not returning it. But I think the reason is because they decided that in terms of like consistency, it's more consistent to say the language that people are already familiar with, right? In terms of return a minion to the opponent's hand. We have that in Canary, we've had that in Sap, we've had that in various things. So because they've never used bounce or send or any of these other things before. So that would be my guess. Yeah.
Except that they have, because Kolagarn exists, and Kolagarn says put.
I think that they did this because they wanted to evoke Shadow Step.
Yes.
Right? They wanted to take Shadow Step return a friendly minion to your hand and just change enemy and capitalize your. Return an enemy minion to your hand, right? Like,
the language on this card is, I believe, honestly, is less written this way to be consistent and more written this way to be as tilting as possible. Because that is the reason you print this card. Like, you know what you're doing when you print a card like this. Leo's Minty Fresh Robles, he had a whole really thoughtful comment for each one of the cards. And for this one, he just said Shadow Word Steel, period, next tweet. Like, that was his comment. Because you know exactly what you are doing when you are making a card like this. And like, the fact that your is in capitals, yes, it's communicating information, but it is tilting seeing that in all caps as well. So I think that was written to be in a tilting way, which is consistent with the flavor of the card, not necessarily the other effects like this that have been printed. Because if you want to be consistent with the other effects, you would make it like Hologarm, which says when it attacks a minion, put it in your hand. You would say that on this if you wanted to. So I think they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, they could have just said, put an enemy minion in your hand.
On that note, we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at Concede.com. You can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/CoinConcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com and write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede, as well as like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/CoinConcede. If you would like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Kresh, Beef Squatch, David P., Walu, Jeremy T., Bottlecaps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, Forgiven One, Grizzly Bear, and The Grand Arcanum. Coin Concedes.
Well, I will coin concede to Language Hacker and the housewife who got married in Italy this past week. And congratulations to them. They've been together for a while, and it's really, it's great to see them in the same place and happy. And hopefully they will figure out their living situation soon. And because Language Hacker lives in Canada and the housewife lives in Italy. And so that one of them is going to have to figure something out, but hopefully that is easier to resolve than it is in the US, because my wife and younger daughter have been watching a whole lot of 90 Day Fiancé, and I do not wish any of those trials and tribulations on them. I know when they're watching it because I just hear, no, oh my God, coming from the living room. And that's when I know that it's on.
Yeah, immigration stuff for a spouse, that's very stressful.
I hope that that Canada and or Italy is easier to deal with then in that way than the US is.
Yeah.
My coin concedes are less fun than that one, I would say. First, to LGBTQIA+, especially transgender people in Ohio, including Edel, but just the amount of just targeting is really horrible to see, even as someone who is not personally affected. So I can only imagine when it is personally affecting. Also, to the people laid off at Twitch this week, there was something like 500 people laid off at Twitch, which is 35% or so of their workforce.
Wow.
So even for the people who were not laid off, I mean, just like adapting to having 1/3 of people gone is really difficult. So I really hope that those people are able to land on their feet.
Yeah. And Discord too. Discord laid off 17% of their workforce today. So also to those folks.
Ugh. And yeah, I mean, it's tough when so many tech companies are doing it to be yet another tech person who was laid off at the same time.
Really?
Yeah.
Yay, January layoffs. Yeah.
At least it's after Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my coin concede is going to be to the esports program because it's happening. There's going to be one. There's going to be one.
Coin concede for
just-
existing.
Yeah.
Honestly, we'll take it. That was not necessarily a given.
There was a moment where, you know, I mean, at this point we figured there would be something, but Sottle was sort of like, hey, can Raven and I take the finals just in case? Just in case this is the last world championship for Hearthstone. It's like, you know, we've sort of been there for the beginning, you know, just in case we'd love to be the ones to close it out. So yeah, glad that's not the case. But
Yes.
we'll have to see how good it is. I mean, who knows? Ladder matters. We'll see if it matters the soul-crushing extent that it did this past year. Hopefully not. But yeah, I just happy to have, you know, some job security in terms of casting.
And we don't have to change the tagline for at least a year, which is excellent news.
Yeah.
Selfishly. Well, that'll do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and return an enemy minion to your hand. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now.
I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.
You had to do it.
I had to. I mean, what am I going to do? I had to do it.